all heard the rumors for the last couple of years that Nintendo had Switch 2 plans very early, way earlier than what we got it, which was not until April of 2025 where they finally started revealing the stuff to us and releasing the console in June. But apparently they had plans to release it a lot earlier, and we've heard these rumors, and we've heard them all the way back as far as the beginning of 2024. We heard that there was a chance it could have been at the end of 2024, but still nothing. And even some rumors saying at the very beginning of 2025 the console would release, but still nothing. And we've heard rumors for a while saying it was because of the games, but now we have a little bit more information regarding this. According to a recent Bloomberg article, they state Nintendo repeatedly pushed back plans for the Switch 2's launch after its designers asked for more time to perfect the games that would accompany the new hardware, according to people familiar with the matter. While the later than expected release tested the patience of fans and frustrated third-party game publishers, the company decided that aiming for perfection was more important, the people said, declining to be named because the information was not public. Nintendo declined to comment for this story. Reggie Fils-Aimé, former Nintendo President of America, stated on this, focusing relentlessly on gameplay, making sure you don't ship a game until it's great in your eyes. To me, these are the things that really separate the company. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this, and let me start off by saying the Switch 2 is off to an absolutely killer start. It's doing way better than Switch 1 even did out the gate so far. So it's absolutely doing what it needs to do and what Nintendo wanted it to do. But at the same time, I am a little worried about the console because as well as it's doing, it just doesn't feel right. You know, the start of the Switch 1 just felt right to me. It felt like Nintendo just struck gold and everything was working perfectly. They were doing everything as great as they ever had, great communication, constant outflow of games, and exciting things to look forward to. Where I'm not noticing that as much with Switch 2. It's like they're doing so good, but I don't feel it, if that makes any sense. We waited a very long time for the reveal of Switch 2, and ever since the reveal, it just felt weird. We waited super long for information. When they finally gave it to us, it was just a random trailer one random morning. There was like no prior announcement to get us ready or anything. The communication has always been off with this console. Even right now, over 3 months later, I still feel like it just feels off. They're skipping general directs and just not giving us information on games and letting us know when release dates are. They're just kind of keeping us in the dark and keeping their cards close to their chest and not giving us information, which is strange. But it goes beyond that, because when I'm hearing that this console was delayed specifically for the games, I start to ask, where are these games? The Switch 2 has games, but when I start to peel each one of them back and really dig into them and think about this, whole thing of delaying the Switch 2 so long so that way these games could come out, because it did feel like they delayed it for at least a year or more. We were hearing rumors that there was supposed to be Switch 2 presentations, like I said, at the beginning of 2024, and, things didn't happen. So in my eyes, I'm just trying to figure out why did they delay this console and for what games specifically. But when I look at Nintendo's two flagship titles for Switch 2 being Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza, both of those games, if you haven't read the interviews, were planned to be Switch 1 games, and they started development very, very early, and they make sense if you think about it. The Switch 1 didn't have an original Mario Kart game. It launched with Mario Kart 8, Deluxe, and then eventually got DLC so many years later, and that DLC of the Booster Pass was only made to give them more time in Mario Kart World, because at first, for the first handful of years, they were planning to release the thing on Switch until they realized, oh, we could definitely use the more power of Switch 2, so they moved development. And same thing with Donkey Kong Bonanza. That's why we were all waiting for a second Mario game on Switch 1, and we never got one, because it was going to be Donkey Kong Bonanza as that Odyssey 2 experience. But it never happened because, once again, halfway through development, Nintendo decided to actually push the limits of this game and push it over to Switch 2. But I enjoyed Mario Kart World. I loved Donkey Kong Bonanza, but both of those were made to be Switch 1 games in the very beginning. And I guess that's how things always work with new consoles. Of course, you can't just always have nothing but Switch 2 made games. You're going to have games that were in development for years before Switch 2 was even brought up that still need to come out, and they may shift development to the new console. I get that completely, but at the same time, I'm ready to hear about a Switch 2 game that was made in mind of being a Switch 2 game from the very beginning. For instance, I do believe the next 3D Mario game is going to be that first game that was originally planned to always be a Switch 2 game. And the only other Switch 2 game that's slated for this year is another racing game. I grew up with Kirby Air Ride. I loved it to death when I was a kid, and I'm excited for this game, but still, what I've seen doesn't seem to be anything super crazy. It seems to almost be like a big remake of Kirby Air Ride. It looks very similar and plays very similar. Even, you know, City Trial looks very similar to the original game. And it's another racing game. I mean, in a year packed with racing games, we have Sonic Racing, we had Mario Kart World, we still have Garfield Kart coming, which might sound silly, but it's just another racing game in an already very saturated market for this year. So it's very strange to me, as this might be the first game technically we get that's primarily a Switch 2 game that was made from the beginning as a Switch 2 game. But it's a Kirby racing game, which is funny to me. But everything that came out this year so far and everything that's still to come is either a Switch 1 game or an extremely small title. Something small like Drag a Drive that was only $20, or even Switch 2 Welcome Tour that was $10. And then you look at these other games, they're Switch 1 games, so they're not really giving a lot of people reason to buy a Switch 2, when you can play Metroid Prime 4 eventually on the Switch 1 as well, and you can play Pokemon Legends ZA on the Switch 1 as well also. I highly recommend you don't play Pokemon Legends ZA on Switch 1. I mean, we see how Pokemon games ran on Switch 1. And finally, we have The Legend of Zelda Age of Imprisonment, which, like, I wanted this game. I'm very excited for this game, as I am 100% the other two games. I feel like I'm one of the only people in the world that's excited about this game, though. You know what I mean? And even with that said, I know this game is just not going to get a lot of attention from people. It's the third Hyrule Warriors game, the second one in the world of Breath of the Wild. I guess I was just very confused as to why this was a game that they wanted year one. Kind of in the same ballpark with Kirby Air Riders. Like, why was this something that needed to be, you know, the first year of your brand new console? It doesn't really scream brand new console to me. I guess what I'm really saying is I don't see the fruits of Nintendo's labor right now. I keep hearing about how they delayed this console because they need to make the games great, you know, perfect the games, give us more games at launch and stuff, and I'm not seeing it. You know what I mean? I see two really big games out the gate with June and July being Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza respectively, but now that that's out and those are done, there's like nothing on the horizon to really excite a casual fan or somebody that's on the fence still about a brand new Nintendo Switch 2 and whether they should spend the $450 or not, because that's a lot of money to fork over for a brand new Switch that's ideally the same thing as Switch 1 but extremely more powerful. But people want to play games. They want to use that power to play brand new games. And I still have people ask me, friends, family members, my barber even, random people ask me all the time, hey, when is the next big game coming out? When's the next 3D Mario or Smash Brothers or Animal Crossing? You know, something that really is going to make me want to go out and buy a Switch 2. And I don't know what to tell them, because as someone who was expecting 3D Mario for year one, who knows when we'll get 3D Mario at this point? And who knows when we'll get Animal Crossing or even the next Smash Brothers, even though it feels like it's definitely time to see Smash Bros. Soon, since Smash Ultimate came out in December of 2018. So I'm just sitting here thinking like, okay, why was this console delayed? Because that's why I felt a little upset with that Switch 2 presentation. I know a lot of people loved it and was completely fulfilled with everything that they showed off, but when I was hearing all the rumors of the fact that this console was delayed because they had to get ready for the games, my mind was spinning. Like, I was thinking of all these huge games that they were going to announce and flesh out the holiday season and even the beginning of next year and stuff, and they come out, show us two big games out the gate and nothing else in the near future, and that's what worried me from the very beginning. I think the Switch 2 is selling like hotcakes right now, but it does fear me a little bit that it may not have legs if Nintendo doesn't pick it up and start revealing some big games to look forward to, because it might have a strong out the gate impression, but if people are going years into this new console and there's nothing super huge or big for them to pick up and reasons for them to spend that $450 for sure, then what's the point? You know what I mean? And right now, for instance, as somebody who loves Nintendo, made a whole channel about Nintendo and plays almost every single Nintendo release, I'm looking at the rest of this year like, man, everything I'm excited about is a non-Nintendo game, which is hilarious to me. I'm more excited about Silksong, Pac-Man World 2. Dude, I'm more excited about the upcoming Bubsy 4D than any upcoming Nintendo release. And it could change easily, because I would be very excited about Metroid Prime 4, but it's hard to be excited for something that hardly's gotten any gameplay showed off, does not have a single release date or anything interesting about the game in months, you know what I mean? It's supposed to come out this year. Here we are on the 5th of September, and there's still no information about Metroid. Yeah, it's hard to get excited about that game right now as much as I want to. So yeah, everything I'm looking forward to is just third-party games, and I'm playing them on other consoles as well. So yeah, it's strange. My first big year with my brand new console, there's nothing super interesting this holiday season, which just blows my mind. Maybe they've originally planned to just ride out the holiday with nothing but Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza, and those were their two flagship titles, and nothing was going to compete against them. it's strange to me. I don't get it. I still think Metroid Prime 4 is going to end up being that holiday game, but if that being the case, being a Switch 1 game, being your holiday game of your Switch 2, just isn't smart in my opinion. I think something else that's really frustrating is if Nintendo had really delayed the Switch 2, it's even dumber when it comes to their third-party content, because right now we're still getting reports that third parties are not receiving dev kits, that other companies cannot produce their games, they can't release their games, they can't bring their games to Switch 2 because they were not given a Switch 2 development kit. These go for smaller indie studios, and even some bigger ones that worked with Nintendo in the past are not receiving Nintendo dev kits for Switch 2, which is so strange to me. Like, why is Nintendo keeping this console so secretive? Why? I mean, they're not giving the consumers information, but they're also not giving developers information, which is strange. Like, I don't understand why that's a method that they want to do. Like, you delayed your console. The least you could do is give development kits out. Remember, we were hearing all the reports and rumors from like accessory manufacturers and even game developers that they wanted to release their upcoming games or reveal them for Switch 2, but Nintendo wasn't talking about the console. They were being so quiet and so secretive, and it was so strange, and they were getting frustrated because for them to reveal their brand new game, Nintendo had to reveal the brand new console. And yeah, Nintendo was just being weird. I'm telling you, the whole thing with Switch 2 just feels off compared to Switch 1. But I think it's even a bigger reason why I'm expecting next week's Nintendo Direct to be everything. And, you know, I'm not necessarily expecting it. Like, I'm not going in with high expectations anymore. I'm more along the lines of just saying, like, for Nintendo's sake, it needs to be a big one. You know what I mean? For their consumers, it needs to be a big one. And no, they didn't announce a Nintendo Direct for next week yet, but it's all but confirmed. All these sources out there are saying it's happening, even our most reliable being Nate the Hate, saying it's happening on Thursday or Friday of next week. And it's looking like it's going to be Friday, thanks to some other sources that we've had, such as Switch Force from YouTube, who's already said it was Friday, gotten some things right in the past. So yeah, either way, it looks like we're having a big Nintendo Direct next week, and all of this could change. They could come out next week, give us dates for everything that we know about, maybe more updates for Mario Kart World and stuff like that, and then just tons of new and exciting information on new games and stuff coming at the beginning and maybe even the middle of next year. They could really just start setting expectations in a great way, start actually communicating what's coming, giving us a true layout schedule of what to expect for the last couple months of this year and the beginning of next year. I mean, truly, they can make it awesome. I mean, we still don't even know about Splatoon Raiders and what the heck that was about. That just got revealed randomly on one Tuesday morning. So more information on that is definitely needed because it's probably going to be one of my most anticipated games right now from Nintendo. I feel like that game is going to be something spectacular, and we just need to know more about it. But yeah, hopefully this Direct changes my mind on everything, but right now I just don't see how in the world this console was delayed for so long, because I'm not really seeing the fruits of Nintendo's labor of delaying this console, you know what I mean? But I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below if you agree or disagree. Maybe you love Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza and you're fine for the rest of this year. You're set and you're just playing third-party games and you're not worried. Or maybe you're still on the fence about getting a Switch 2 and Nintendo hasn't really proven themselves to you. Let me know how you feel about it down below, and how excited are you for a potential big general Direct for next week, especially as we push into Mario's 40th anniversary. Surely there should be some goodness there of some sorts. But thank you for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe before you head out, and I hope you all have a blessed day, and I'll see you all in the next one. See you guys.